I'm Keaira Linyard, and I'm the CEO and director of Shuttle. We're a private transportation company serving Milwaukee and the surrounding areas. I've always been an entrepreneur. I was standing on business before I had a business. I feel like you have to one, just be willing to bet on yourself. Like, I have a vision for the business, and God is leading this thing. So I feel like there's anything that I put my mind to, anything that I'm interested in, I'm gonna go for it and I'm gonna make it happen. But by the end of this year, we're on track to do $1 million in revenue. It was just kind of like, okay, we're in the game. We have clients, and it was smooth.
No turning back now.
No turning back. I tithe, I invested in myself, and I trusted God. I think that's the sauce right there.
I'm Darian.
I'm Elena, and this is our podcast, Step into Success,
where we give you an inside look at how people are currently creating success in their respective fields.
Our mission is to bring you into the trenches for an inside view and hopefully give some inspiration and knowledge as you work towards success in your own way.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Step into Success podcast. Today we have Keaira Linyard, and her company is called Just Shuttle, based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're going to turn it over. Keaira, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Just tell us a little bit about who you are and your business.
Well, hi guys. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm Keaira Linyard, and I'm the CEO and director of Just Shuttle. We're a private transportation company serving Milwaukee and the surrounding areas.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what exactly, when you say you're a private shuttle company, what exactly does that mean?
Okay, so we're private because you can't just call and say, hey, can you pick up a kid and drop them off here. We're contracted directly with the Bureau of Children and Family Services, Child Protective Services, and we transport foster kids to and from school, to and from therapy, and to and from supervised visits with their parents. But we're also contracted with school districts in Milwaukee as well as some insurances. So, yeah, we're a private company. All of our work is contracted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that?
During the pandemic, I was just kind of in a place of transition, right? So I'm I lead with my faith, as I was telling you guys before, and I just was kind of praying God, what's next for me? What do you need me to do? So let me just kind of scale back. So my background is actually in fashion. I was a wardrobe stylist for 10 years, and before that, I had a boutique and a showroom. So I've always been an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what year it was. Started off with my showroom, then I opened a boutique, and then I was just doing fashion styling in between, going to New York Fashion Week, back and forth to LA, Atlanta, all of the cities, doing all of the things, fashion editor, magazine, all of that stuff.
Wow.
During the pandemic, God was like, I need you to not take on any more styling clients, and I need you to focus on something else. And I'm like, what? My whole identity and my whole life was wrapped up in me doing the fashion stuff. So I'm like, God, what do you mean? But he literally told me to stop taking clients. And I'm like, well, I need to do something. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been in business and been interested in having a business. So I'm like, what do you want me to do? So he gave me the idea of starting a transportation company. I had no idea what that would look like for me. So it's crazy. Amari actually helped me. I came up with a name, and then we just started kind of thinking okay, what kind of clients will we have? So I randomly bought a party bus.
Okay.
And I was like, maybe we'll take people back and forth to work, people who live in Milwaukee who want to work at Amazon. So we'll shuttle them back and forth to Kenosha. And we were just kind of trying to come up with ideas. And in the midst of that, I got an email from the school district. I don't want to say which one it is.
Okay,
but the school district that I'm partnered with, and they reached out and said, hey, we're looking for someone to transport our special needs kids. Would you be able to take on a contract? You want me to keep going?
Yeah.
At that moment, I have no background in logistics, transportation, none of that. At that moment, I did not have a van. I had a party bus.
Okay.
But I just was like, okay, God, this is like a very prominent school district. And I just was like, okay, I can do it. And so they basically were like, okay, can you like send us some pictures of like your van? Like what type of vehicle do you have? And I like sent it over. They were asking questions and I just was kind of winging it, like telling them what they wanted to hear. Fast forward, I ended up getting a contract. We started off with 4 kids, all autistic, and we took them to and from school. And that's kind of how I got my feet wet in the business. I did the 4 kids for 2 years before I branched out to the bigger contract.
All right.
Got it. Okay, so
that was a lot.
No, that's great.
That was a lot.
that's great.
That's great.
But yeah, it was a lot. There's like a lot of questions I was thinking of during that time that I'm curious about. So for one, just to level set and be clear for the audience, all of your so the transport, the shuttle, it's all for children, right? You're just transporting children that have some sort of special need to and from their school or to and from other activities that they do, right?
Yeah, right now our niche is special needs children and children in foster care.
Okay.
That's
Got
our
it.
niche, yeah.
Okay, and so you had this inspiration from God that you needed to start this transportation company. When you had that inspiration, you didn't know that it was going to involve children, right?
No,
Okay.
no idea.
How did that school discover you in the first place? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Like, and when I tell people, I believe it was God. Because I have no idea how they found me. And you have to think, I wasn't a solidified business at that moment. So it's not like they Googled me. I think we probably had just got the LLC, maybe not even like 6 months before. I have no idea how they found me.
Wow.
So it just had to be the grace of God. And this school district in particular is so like prominent and so particular about who they work with. I still just don't even understand, like, out of everybody you can reach out to, like, how did you guys, I thought about asking them, like, how did you guys ever find me? But they just randomly emailed me.
So you just
So
went with it.
it was God.
Yeah.
It was God, yeah.
So when that connection happened, what were some of the steps before you actually were able to go pick up the children? What kind of like legal work did you have to go through? What kind of, what did the school make you sign or make you do? Like what happened between when the school contacted you until that first day you went and picked up the children?
This is crazy. Okay, so I had to have the vans with signage. I had to have insurance. So this business is basically considered a non-emergency medical transportation, and that required a certain type of insurance. This contract specifically didn't ask for a specific type of policy. I don't know why. So I kind of had free range to just kind of like start off with just like a regular policy. So for that contract, I really only needed the vans, the capacity, and like basic insurance. This is anybody listening. This is not going to be like typical what it would look like. This was just my story.
Yeah.
And as I'm talking to you, it was nothing but God, because like they really didn't require much from me.
Okay.
I think that they maybe just assumed that I had everything needed because I actually presented them with a contract. Like they never came to me and said, hey, this is what's required. Here's the contract. I kind of was like, this is what I have. And if we're going to move forward, I'm going to present you guys with a contract. So it was just like a special case. I don't think it would ever happen like that again for anyone. So that was just kind of like favor. And that was just like the grace of God, honestly.
So your contracts that you've gotten since then, do those look a little bit different?
Very much different.
Okay. Yeah.
Very, very, very much different. So okay, go ahead.
Nope.
So I just was kind of giving you guys a glimpse into what the start looked like,
Yeah.
right?
Perfect.
Because we're in a whole nother ball game now. But that first contract was literally like, I'm thinking God was like, let me just let her get a little taste of what this would look like. And I also think that it was like a test of stewardship, right? Like if you, like it's a scripture in the Bible, and it's somewhere in there, it's like God needs to be able to trust you with a small thing before he can, expose you to larger. So
100%.
my first 2 years in business, I had 4 kids. consistently for 2 school years, 4 kids, and I was okay with that because I had to learn how to invoice. I was working on my communication with like the administrators at the school. I was learning the different personalities of parents and interacting with parents, and also learning like the behaviors of these special needs kids. Because keep in mind, I have no background in this. Like, I'm not an educator. I don't know really anything about special needs kids other than like my nephew. So it was just kind of like I was learning the ropes.
Yeah. That's great. So just, I know we got a long ways to go, but I got to say my favorite part of your story to this point, and what honestly is one of my favorite things, is that you just kind of had this feeling and you went with it and you just like made it happen. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who spend so much time like trying to perfect their ideas or whatever that they never end up actually making the idea happen.
Right.
And you just kind of like were the total opposite. You're just like, I'm going to go with it.
Well, I also think that came from like my background in entrepreneurship, right? It's like I've always been doing something. Like even when I was like 17, I was always just good at something. I could do hair. Like I've always did something, right? So like, although I had the showroom where I bought vintage clothes, like from the thrift store. And I would like get them tailored and like kind of change the shape. So I would buy something for like a dress for $10, and then I would resell it for like $50 after I kind of like play with it. So like that was my first business. I didn't make any money. I didn't know anything about operations, but it was like I was doing something. Then after that, I transitioned to the styling. I was traveling and like doing stuff. Like I was just always doing something. So when it came to like starting a business and like making a leap and just doing something, like that comes natural to me.
Okay.
And I definitely feel like that's what like the self-development that I worked on. Because like you said, anybody can have an idea, but it definitely takes some type of like grit and tenacity to just, and confidence also, to just like move forward with it. Does that make sense?
For
100%.
sure.
Yeah.
I like that grit and tenacity. I think those are really strong characteristics that are maybe not necessarily required at the start, but need to be developed as you kind of move forward.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, a lot of people, I think, start off with like, well, I don't have any money. How am I going to start a business without any money? Mm-hmm. And you had kind of mentioned like when you started your vintage clothing, I mean, it maybe wasn't super lucrative at the very start. What advice would you have for somebody who maybe is on a shoestring budget but really wants to get out there and try something new?
I get that question a lot. I feel like you have to one, just be willing to like bet on yourself. Like, and my story is so unique because some things I don't know if I can say, but like if I tell you how I got the money to buy my first van, like you wouldn't believe it. But I'll tell you guys.
Tell us. Yeah.
No, I literally was like, I was coming from Chicago because at this time I was still transitioning out of styling. I had a meeting with an agency who wanted to like represent me as a stylist. On my way home on the highway, I got rear-ended. And it was just like, I ended up like running into the car in front of me. So I had a car accident. So I ended up having like a little lawsuit. And I ended up getting like maybe $8,500 or something like that. So I literally took that money from the accident and invested it in to buy like my party bus, which I then sold and got a van. Okay. So I was like, what are you willing to invest? Yeah. Like, you know, maybe the average person would have just took that money and just, I don't know. But my mindset was like, I'm about to start this company and I'm about to buy me a van. So I was like, you can say you don't have the money, but you have the money. It's like you're spending that money on something else, whether it's clothes, traveling, whatever. It's like I was willing to go all in and invest, you know, my money towards my business, and it worked out for me. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Betting on yourself. 100%. I like that.
I feel like, too, that's kind of like maybe how God tests you, too, right? Yeah. Like, hey, I'm going to give you this $8,500, and let's see how you spend it. And because you spend it on something to better your life, some of those other blessings then came down.
Let me add to that. Out of that $8,500, I did tithe to a random church that I went to visit my sister's church, and God kind of led me because I was like, I need to tithe 10% off this money. Like, Lord, you tell me where you want me to do it. And I was at my sister's church, and I gave the tithe, and I think that played a big part in it too, because I didn't earn that money, right? It was money that I got from accident, but I still paid my tithe. I think that's a very important thing to note. Like, maybe that is part of the reason why God has literally blessed the business tremendously. I tithe, I invested in myself, and I trusted God. I think that's the sauce right there.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds like it worked well. Back to the Just Shuttle business, you got the contract with that first school, got the 4 students. It's like your first day. Were you the driver? Did you go pick them up? Like, tell us about that first day
Oh my
doing
God.
this.
I really remember it was so crazy. First of all, I don't know why I felt I needed like a uniform.
Okay.
Me and my daughter literally went and got these little shirts from Walmart, and I don't know where we got. I don't know. We had some type of iron-on Just Shuttle. I don't know where we got it from. Maybe Amari. I don't remember. So we literally made these shirts. They were so ghetto. And yeah, I drove. I think I was pregnant. Yeah, I was pregnant. I don't know if I may have been 6 months pregnant, and I was kind of nervous. So I asked my daughter to come with me, my teenage daughter, because I didn't know what it was going to be like with the autistic kids, because some kids on the spectrum, some act different. I just didn't know if they were going to be aggressive. I didn't know. Okay. But I did. I went out, took my daughter with me, picked up the kids. I had 2 high school kids for my first pickup, and got them dropped off. I was kind of nervous, but it was something in me where I was nervous, but this business just kind of came natural to me for some reason. The interaction with the kids was really cool. Then I went and picked up our younger elementary kids, and one of our clients was nonverbal, but she was I don't know, her behaviors were a little tricky. But yeah, I did my first route myself with my daughter, and it was just kind of like, okay, we're in the game. Like, we have clients, and it was smooth.
No turning back now.
No turning back.
And so in those 2 years, you said was that the only contract that you had, was those 4 kids for the full 2 years?
Yeah.
Were you the only driver for that entire time, or did you kind of expand into hiring?
The second year, I did hire somebody.
Okay.
And then I kind of just let her take over the route, and I would just do like the back end. It's not like I had a ton to do, but I would just do like the invoices, the correspondence, communicating with the parents and things like that. So yeah, first year was just me. Second year brought on a driver, and then we were in the game.
And now is this year 3 of your business,
This
or
was
going into year 4?
So I'm in year 4 now.
Okay.
So in year 2, I think in November of 2021, I ended up getting my second contract.
Okay.
The road to that contract was very tricky because I knew that I wanted to do something else and transition into something else. So I don't know where the idea came from. I'm like, let me reach out to this agency to, get the foster care contract. When I reached out and they sent me like the application or the paperwork, it was so intimidating. Like, I literally looked and I was like, we can't do this. Like, there's no way. Like, I'm not qualified. Like, there's no way. So I just kind of like put it to the side. I'm like, no. But they ended up reaching back out to me like, hey, like, are you interested? Did you want to move forward with like the paperwork? And I was like, give me a little time and I'll get back to you. Let a couple more months pass, and they reached out again. I'm like, okay, let me just start, getting the documents and everything together. And I finally completed everything. It was so hard. When I think back, I can't even remember what was hard. But they asked for like a lot, like documents, quality assurance plans, like all type of stuff that I didn't know. I had to literally go to Google. But I ended up submitting everything, and I got that contract, and I started taking clients like the second week in November of 2021.
And so from there, were you able to then get more contracts similar to that with the foster care because of the preparation?
Since then, it's like that totally changed the trajectory of the business.
Okay.
Like, that contract was literally a game changer. Like, I think we started off with maybe 3 clients, and then just 3 clients, 10 clients, 15 clients, 20 clients, 50 clients, 60 clients, 70 clients, 80 clients, 100 clients, 100, like we're at 100 plus clients now, just with that contract. And it's just like, I don't know. My head is like literally spinning right now because I can't believe how fast the business has grown. But it was also like, if I wasn't willing to take that step and put in that work to get everything they needed for the contract, it just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. So do you think that was sort of like your next level test?
Oh, that was definitely my next
Especially
level
with them like
test.
reaching back out to you.
That was definitely my next level test.
So at that point, did you have to purchase another vehicle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I was, so I was on my second van. So I got the contract, I bought a second van, and so that started in November. I think in January, I got a third van, and then we just kind of started like adding on from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did that look like for you deciding, like, I guess considering where your business was financially, and then also considering your need for, I have to transport more children, so I need literally more physical space to do so. How did you kind of balance that decision making?
It was kind of like a supply and demand, right? So with this new contract I had, the demand was like super, super high. Mm-hmm. So I saw that like probably within the first 2 weeks. I was like, because the moment I joined it, so I basically became a network provider. Okay. With this foster care agency. The moment they put me in the system, I just started getting emails like crazy from case managers. Wow. So it was like, can you, we have a kid, a referral here, another referral. And I'm like, So I kind of was like, my goal was to basically have the van. Okay, how can I break this down? I had a number in mind for each van. So let's just say my goal was to make, I don't know what it was at that time, but it could have been $5K. Like, once this van gets to $5K a month, then I'm going to bring in another van. Or once this van is at capacity, if we had back-to-back routes, then I'll go ahead and bring in another van. I feel like we're missing some steps. But does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. I'm just always curious how business owners approach that, like balancing where you're at financially now versus like your need for growth. Yeah. So I'm just always
curious. And let me add in, all of my vans were cash purchases.
Okay.
And I think that's very important for anybody that's interested in doing this type of non-emergency medical transportation. I know everybody might not have the means to like do cash transactions with vans, but I get all my vans cash. My partner, my fiance, is a mechanic. He also goes to the auction. Okay. He has an auction license, so he goes and get all of our vans. So by me just doing cash, buying my vans out cash, is like my overhead is still significantly lower. Yeah. So, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Does he do like any repairs and stuff?
Yeah, he does all the repairs.
So that's nice. That's a good synergy you guys have there.
Yeah, couldn't do it without him.
So going into from fashion to now this more kind of logistical business, what kind of skills have you had to learn just with the different industries from like your previous background?
Well, I actually took some skill set from like the fashion business to doing this because it was like in fashion, it's a people business, right? Yeah. Relationships is everything. It's like the only way that I was able to grow as a fashion stylist was by building relationships with photographers, building relationships with makeup artists, hairstylists, and things like that. So the referral game was like very strong. Okay. The same in this business, particularly with the contract I have now with foster kids, it's still all about relationships, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm building relationships with case management. That's how I get referrals in. A case manager maybe has 50 kids on her load that needs to go to school, have visits with their parents and everything like that. Once they start working with us and see that we're reliable, we show up on time, our communication is strong, they'll just keep referring families to us, right? Okay. So it'll be one case manager and I might have 10 families with her. So it's just all about like relationship building. But also like in my fashion career, like I learned management, right? Running the stores, running the boutiques. Like I had to learn how to manage a team of people. The same with what I'm doing now. I have a team of drivers. I have an administrative team, like managing people and treating people well and making sure that I'm on top of my game as a CEO. That's what's keeping me in business. Yeah. So managing people and also like relationship building I brought that skill set from my previous business to what I'm doing now.
Nice.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So you've mentioned the foster care system quite a few times now, right? After that first contract with the school. Did you have to sign, like, does one contract cover like all of the foster care children that you work with, or do you have to sign like new contracts for like every single case manager that has children?
That's a good question. So no, it's one overall contract, and that contract allowed me to become a provider in the network, right?
Okay, and the network is like this area, correct? Like certain zip codes or something?
Well, it's Milwaukee and surrounding areas. So
Okay.
we do in-county rides, but we also go out of county. So we're in Slinger, Racine, West Bend, Port Washington, Waupun, Menasha, like all surrounding areas. But that's under one contract that I became a provider in the network to provide those services, particularly with the agency I'm partnered with. Does that make sense?
Got it, 100%.
So I do have a pending contract with another agency, which is Children's Hospital. That would be a different contract that will allow me to be a provider in their network.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, being that you are so widespread, just like geographically, do you have kind of one hub that all your vehicles go out of, or do you have different hubs throughout the area to reach those further out spots?
I have 2 hubs.
Okay.
Yeah. But also, as like the business grows, I only have a certain amount of space at certain hubs, if that makes sense. It's like, right now, I don't own my office, so it's like I can't come in and take up 20 parking spots in the office building when there's like other tenants. So it's like I'm getting strategic with that too. As the business grows, eventually I'm just going to have to buy a lot.
Yeah.
Because
Because logistically, I mean, if you have like 4 vans here and 5 vans here, trying to get from point A to point B, you kind of, how does that work for you? Like, how do you manage the routes, I guess? Just kind of trying to think about it real quickly. I'm like, whoa.
Well, I do have a transport supervisor who kind of oversees the scheduling, and she manages the drivers. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. We have different software we use.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys want me to name them, but like for our route scheduling, we use When I Work. And it works well for now. But as we transition to more contracts, we'll have to like use some type of different software because it does get tricky. Because again, we have like hundreds of clients.
Yeah.
But my transport supervisor does, like, she puts the routes together for us.
Wow.
Got it.
And when did you decide to grow your team to include people like who you just mentioned to manage the transport schedule?
Basically, once I got to capacity of what I could do.
Okay.
Because at one point it was just me managing a team of drivers, and then I had like an assistant with billing. And I think it might have been once we crossed over to like 40 clients or something like that, I had ended up losing count. But I was getting to the point where I had a driver, and I started to see potential in her. She just seemed to be like very interested in like what was going on with the kids, and she was really good with like interacting with parents, and me and her would just talk a lot. And I was like, how are your administrative skills?
Okay.
Like, yeah, like, how are you like, how are your administrative skills like? Because I think I could utilize you in other ways.
Got it.
And I think that was like one of the best things I could have ever done. So I transitioned her from a driver to being my administrative assistant. Then she ended up getting promoted to the transport supervisor. So to answer your question, I think it's important to be able to like spot talent in like the people you have around you, and also to know like what are your goals and what's your capacity for your business. Like, I'm like, I don't know if you guys read the book, like The Lazy CEO. I'm a lazy CEO. I don't want to do it all.
Okay.
Like, I'm not the girl that's like, I'm going to do everything. Like, no. Like, if I can have help, I'm going to get help. So once I got to the point where I was kind of like, I'm kind of getting stressed, it's too much for me to manage, it just made sense for me to bring on Lady as the supervisor, and then to keep growing from there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Got it. So, yeah, that's actually something I was just about to ask you. With this type of business, you're dealing with foster kids, school children, children with special needs. Like, your reputation is definitely on the line here.
Yeah.
How do you go about your hiring process to make sure that you're getting people that are,
That's a great question.
in synergy with you?
It's been a learning process, right? Like, it's been trial and error. Like, I think we're 12 to 15 drivers in, and I came across some bad apples.
Okay.
And it just gets back to like managing, right? And God even like talked to me. I talked to God about this in my prayer time. He was like, you need to realize that anytime you've had like situations that could effectively that could potentially take the business out. Anytime you had like bad situations like with the business, it's always been from a team member that should have been gone like a long time ago. So I think one, right, everybody's not going to be a good fit. And sometimes you'll kind of get those red flags in the beginning. So making sure that I'm paying attention to the red flags. And once I see that a person could potentially like liability issues or could potentially be a liability, I have to get them off the team. But also just learning how to deal with different personalities, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like no one's perfect. And it's like the drivers need to live up to what my expectations are for the business. My expectations are very high. How you talk to parents, how you interact with kids, car seats, everything like that. So it's like I kind of try to pour into people and then give them time to show me, you know, who they are and like how they could bring, how can I word this? I just give people an opportunity to show me who they are, right? But after a while, if it's looking like this won't be a good fit, I just have to get them off the team.
Right.
But I'm always hiring and firing. Like, there's never a time where I'm not hiring. Like, I'm always in, like, recruit mode. Like,
Okay.
I just was, like, at a shoe store buying my kids some shoes the other day, and I felt the salesperson had a really good personality. I'm like, do you like your job? Like,
Nice.
do you have a clean background? Like, how's your driver's record? Like, I'm always talking about my company, and it's like, I feel like, and also I treat people well, right? So like the referrals for drivers is like crazy. Like right now we literally have a waiting list of drivers who want to drive for us.
Oh, wow.
And I know that's a blessing because there's a lot of companies out here who's like, I can't find anybody, like I can't keep anybody.
Yeah,
And it's like,
it's
that's
like-
not our story. Because clearly like we're doing something right when it comes to like onboarding and also like retention, right? Like retention is not an issue for us. But that was a really good question because drivers and your team will make or break this business. Like I need people. I don't have a business without drivers. So just communicating with my drivers, making sure that I'm taking time to let them know that they're valued. And if they're not, if I do have to let them go, letting them go in a way that's not like super negative. It's like, you're not my enemy, but this is just like not a good fit at this time. And maybe we can connect again in the future, but it's being very conscious of how I treat people,
For
if
sure.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Even
that-
in the letting go process, because that's a process that I imagine is hard for a lot of people in leadership, is
Yeah.
both hiring the right candidates, but also recognizing, hey, I have to let you go, and how to deal with that, because it's a little bit confrontational at times, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of handle that from a mindset/emotional perspective, being in that leadership role and knowing that, you know, you're kind of in charge of people's livelihoods in a way?
That's good. Well, I kind of, the emotion piece has to go.
Okay.
Like, this is not emotional. Like, this is business. And I'm very, like, principle-based, right?
Okay.
Like, the principle is, like, if you're not, like, living up to expectations, like, if you're not able to, like, keep up with the flow of work, like, if you're, the way you interact with the clients, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. Emotions have nothing to do with this. This is, like, a business transaction. It's like, I'm not your friend. Like, in the most kind way possible, but I take emotions from it.
Okay.
Because if that's the case, if I was emotional with my business, I don't think I would have gotten as far as I've gotten. So it's not emotional, it's just principles. Like, either you're a good fit or you're not.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's going to work or it's not. And also now, my transport supervisor, I don't really have to get involved. Like, she can let someone go.
Okay.
Like, I trained her she can let someone go without me even being there. So I was like, I'm kind of like removing myself, like, as a CEO and putting other people in positions to do the hard stuff.
And how does that delegation process work for you? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs do struggle with that letting go, and you were saying, I'm good to have help. How do you delegate appropriately for all of the different tasks that need to happen for your business to run efficiently?
I look at my stress level. Like,
Okay.
I'm not trying, I can't take on too much, right? Because I'm not just a CEO, like, I'm a mom and I have a partner. So, any opportunity I find to delegate, I'm going to delegate. Like, right now, we literally just had a meeting on Friday. I'm bringing on the virtual executive assistant. And it's like, do I 100% need a virtual executive assistant? Not at this moment, but for where I'm looking to take the company, I do. So I was like, anything I can get off my plate, like, I'm getting off my plate. Even when it comes to, like, the transport supervisor, like, her task list is crazy because, like, there's always something to do. And also, I'm just, like, looking to grow the business, right? And I can't do that by myself. Like, there's different departments. Like, we need to have the admin assistant. We need to have the secretary. We need to have the transport supervisor. We need to have the maintenance specialist. I need to have my executive assistant. Eventually, we'll have HR. So it's kind of like looking ahead. So if I was kind of focused on today and not looking at the bigger picture, I would be like, oh, we're fine with just a couple of team members we have. No. But by the end of this year, like, we're on track to do like $1 million in revenue.
Wow.
And we can't do that with 2-3 people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think just looking ahead and like looking at the big picture and making sure I have the help now. It's like, I can't say I'm going to go and get another contract and then I'm going to hire people. No, I need to have the manpower now and then we'll go out and get the contracts. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's really insightful way to approach it.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I just want to go back to just for a split second. You were just talking about your mindset. There's no emotion involved. It's just business.
Right.
Earlier in the conversation, you said you've been doing entrepreneur stuff your entire life.
Right.
Do you think that no emotion, able to just stand on your principles, let people go if they're not a good fit, do you think that's something that's just kind of born in you? Do you think some people just don't have that, or have you had to build that? And the reason I ask is I'm thinking about me, for example. Like, it would be hard for me to fire somebody. I'd get emotionally attached to people. I would have a difficult time firing someone. Do you think that's a skill that can be built up? And I ask that because there's probably people listening that are getting to that situation where their business is growing and they're getting to the point where they're going to be doing hiring and firing. Like, what would you say to that?
I think it's a skill that can be built up, but I also think that it's like a personality trait, right? Like, I think if you look at most CEOs, like, we all kind of like, most successful CEOs, like, we kind of all have certain things in common, right? It's like, I'm a Capricorn. You guys know anything?
Me
like,
too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, what day?
December 26th.
Oh, you a December Capricorn. I'm a January Capricorn. I'm a real Capricorn.
Okay.
Not saying you're not.
Yeah, I'm almost like a Sagittarius.
Oh, okay.
Almost,
No,
almost.
that's good. So it's just like my personality trait is like, I'm standing on business. Like, I was standing on business before I had a business. Like, I'm not going to let you waste my time. Right. And it's like, there's just nothing emotional about that. Like, at all. Like, how can I be emotional about that? That just doesn't make sense to me. Like, oh, I'm sad. Like, I have to, no. It's like, I'm more sad about you wasting my time. I'm more sad that me keeping you on the team is holding us back from being great, right? Like, our motto is like, where expectation meets excellence. Like, I can't be excellent with having you on my team. And I'm sorry, that doesn't sound nice. But eventually, like, me being super nice is not going to help me to continue to build generational wealth for my family. Like, I need to stand on principles and stand on business and do what I need to do to keep the business going. It's not about feelings. And I've even trained my transport supervisor to be like that. Like, I was looking at her the other day and she was standing on business with the drivers. And I was like, okay, wow, I've created a monster. And it's like, we're not, like, it's just business. It's business. Like, you don't see like the men in the boardrooms, being timid and nervous about letting people go. Like, Jeff Bezos is not like, oh my God, I can't let Jane go. She has 3 kids. Like, no, Jane is not doing what she needs to do to be an asset to this company. So Jane has to go, period.
That's one of the best answers I think I've gotten since we've done this show, to be honest with you. So, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
And can I ask you, just because you kind of mentioned like the men in the boardroom, what is your perspective being a woman in leadership?
I was just talking about this with someone. I think it's pros and cons, right? Like, I feel like in the space that I'm in, with like dealing with foster care and like the Bureau of Children and Families, they celebrate that, right? Like, by me being a woman-owned, woman of color, minority-owned business, I get perks. Like, with the way, like, I'm able to bill weekly and get paid weekly because I'm a minority owned, you know what I'm saying? A woman owned business. But as we grow and we go into like, I'm not going to just stay in the foster care space. Like I desire to get more into the non-emergency medical space where we'll partner with insurances and take people to doctor's appointments and things like that. That's a very male dominated like niche.
Yeah.
And I had a male CEO reach out to us about, he was a broker for NEMT to potentially do a partnership. And my supervisor answered the phone when he called, and he would just ask the question, and he was like, who's the CEO? And we already know where he was going with this, right? And I trained her, so she was like, I'm just not at liberty to say. But just my interactions with him, like going forward, I could just tell that he's not super interested in doing business with a woman, specifically a woman of color. And that's cool because I don't need you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can do what I need to do without I don't need a man validating what I got going on. Like, no offense, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I feel like it can be tricky, but it's like I have a vision for the business and God is leading this thing. So I feel like there's anything that I put my mind to, anything that I'm interested in, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to make it happen. So it can be hard for women, but I feel like you can't have that like, woe is me, feeling sorry for yourself type of mindset. It's like, if anything, women, we make it happen like no other. Like we make it happen. And I feel like any man CEOs looking to partner with like women-owned business, that's probably the smartest move you can make, right? Like having me on your team is like revenue is going to be increased. So I look at it as a perk, right? Like look at the stats on women in business. Particularly look at the stats on like minority-owned women in business. Like we're killing it. Yeah. So I feel like use it to your advantage.
Yeah. Now you'd mentioned some kind of perks that you get. How did you come across those types of resources? Just for people in the audience listening that maybe are getting started, don't know that those benefits are available to them. How did you come across those? Yeah,
well, one, WIBIC is a really good resource in Wisconsin. But the agency that I'm contracted with, they actually were like, they had like a little form where they were asking about like stats of the business. And basically they were like asking if you're a minority-owned business, you get priority with billing. Okay. So that's just something they offer. Okay. So I was like, cool. But I believe like WIBIC, it's a lot of like other little certifications you can have. I don't have any. Like I'm not like a certified women-owned business, but I know there's like a perk to having that. But I feel like if you're a woman, you need to let God lead your business. And then that's where the perks are going to come from. Gotcha. Because clearly that's where my perks came from. Yeah.
So you don't have the like WBE,
no, I don't have
any of those certifications, but you're still having benefits just
absolutely
from you being you.
Yeah.
That's great. So kind of to pick up from what you just said a minute ago, you don't want to just end at the school systems and the foster care. You have bigger and better plans. We'll get into that in a second, but let's talk about the marketing that goes into that. So your business is quite unique. It's service-based. You're dealing with special needs children, schools, foster cares. I know you said you get a lot of referrals and a lot of word to mouth, and you're always recruiting when you're out and about. How else do you go about marketing your business?
I don't.
Just that?
I don't. I mean, I'm telling y'all, I'm a special case. Like this is nothing but God. I've never like even had to like post. I've never posted online like, hey, looking for clients. Like, that's just not my story. Like, our Facebook page and Amari Maven page, we don't even have one post, like, on that page. Like, I literally just joined LinkedIn, like, a week ago.
Oh, wow.
So the fact that the business has been able to do what it's done, just, like, one, off the favor of God and, like, the grace of God and my stewardship, I don't really know what to say. I've never, like, marketed or did any type of marketing for the business.
Do you ever think, wow, I'm going to make probably $1 million this year by not doing any marketing? Imagine what I could do if I cranked up the marketing. Do you ever have those thoughts?
Yeah, I actually did. That's why I met with my friend who's like a specialist in LinkedIn, because I was like, I got on LinkedIn. I was like, wow, how have I've never even like thought to take LinkedIn serious. Maybe I think because I worked in fashion for so long that like LinkedIn wasn't really a thing. And to be honest, like me being 3 years into this business, I'm still kind of like, wow, like how did I get here? Because this is a serious business, and I'm so unserious. like I'm just like not as I'm not that serious, right? So I'm like, wow. But I was telling my friend, like, I think it's time for us to create a presence on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You know, get the business on LinkedIn, let people know our impact, because we had crazy impact in 2023. So I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, we've hit the $500,000 mark, with no marketing or nothing. So it's like, yeah, we'll turn it up a little bit moving forward.
Good deal.
Yeah.
And how do you plan on bringing about this next stage of your business, partnering with like insurance companies to take people to doctor's appointments? I think that's amazing, because there's obviously a lot of people out there who maybe are struggling and don't even go to the doctor because they can't get there. So they'll just let things fester, right? Like, how do you plan on making that happen?
Yeah,
without giving away any
Oh, no worries. It's literally an email and just like submitting the company's information. Literally, like that's it. 'Cause, like we're literally already an established company, and I already have the like application. It's just filling it out, boom, and submitting it. So I guess what's held me back is just making sure that we're positioned and that we have the capacity to take on another contract, because that'll be more vans. But yeah, it's literally just like nothing is ever that deep. Fill out the application, like that's it. Like nothing is that deep.
Okay, that's good to know, because I feel like a lot of people, myself included, sometimes think, golly, there's so much to do, it's going to be overwhelming. You're saying that things aren't always that complicated. Sometimes it's just like taking action, right? I mean,
yeah.
Did I hear that correctly?
No, you're right, because I feel like, and like what you were saying, once I kind of completed everything I needed for that first big contract, it showed me that like we just make things more than what it is, right? It's like me looking at something and just being intimidated instead of just sending in the required information. It's like, I think once I did that, it kind of boosted my confidence. And it's like, whoa, like I literally could do anything I put my mind to. Like, it sounds so cliche, but literally I feel anything I put my energy towards, like, it's going to happen, right? So if I was able to get this big contract, I can get another one, and I can get another one, and I can get another one. But the key is like making sure that I have the capacity. Like, I've had people reach out and say, hey, why don't you like get more vans? Like, why don't you? It's like, yeah, baby steps. Like, I'm in no rush. Like, we're in a great space. Like, I'm just not trying to make all the money. I'm trying to retain. I'm trying to keep clients, nurture those relationships. I'm not trying to take on too much. I don't want to be a stressed CEO. Like, ease is very important to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And so do you think that perspective kind of plays into how you manage your time as a CEO? We talked about how you delegate, but is that like a foundation for you when thinking about all of the different things that you have to manage, as sort of maintaining this level of just emotional stress?
Yeah, making sure I'm not taking on too much. So what I've kind of done is like map out my days. Like, I don't want to work every day, and I don't have to work every day. That's why I have a team. So just kind of putting boundaries on like my office days, right? Because I'm a mom, and that comes first. So if I'm at the office 2 days a week, that's more than enough, right? Okay. Because I can still do emails at home. I can communicate with my team like on the back end. But also I know the goals that I have for myself as a CEO. Like, again, I don't have the desire to be that person in their business like doing everything. Like, I can manage my team from the back end, and I could still take my son to soccer or have play dates with my kids, or just stay home and like do nothing and still make money while I'm chilling. Like, that's the type of CEO I want to be. I don't want to show up every day.
Yeah.
So, but that's not everybody's story. That's just my story. Even as the business grows, I don't want to have to show up every day. I want to be at my property in Chicago for 2 weeks, but I can still see the vans going out every day and the money coming in every day. Like, that's just how I want to position my life. So I kind of move with that intention, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's really inspiring to hear, actually, because I think in this space, a lot of people are sort of that, like, type A, I do everything, go, go, go. I always have to be checking my email. Yeah. So it's really refreshing to hear another perspective of like, you're obviously successful, but maintaining that work-life balance, especially as a woman and a mother. I mean, I think that can be a hang-up, for certain women that are maybe wanting to get into business because they fear that that's an unattainable balance to have. So thank you
Yeah,
for sharing
it is.
that.
I haven't always been like that.
Okay.
So it took a while to get there. It took a lot of, sleepless nights and just like me going to therapy for my anxiety, because there was moments where I did take on too much, but I had to step back and realize like this isn't fun.
Yeah.
Like this is not what I want. I don't care how much money I'm making. If I have so much anxiety that I can't sleep at night, or if I'm so drained that like after a day I just can't come and like be present for my kids, like what am I doing?
So
Right.
what kind of things did you do to shift into this mindset from a more anxious mindset?
Well, one, I had to go to therapy consistently.
Okay.
So weekly therapy. Two is making time for my devotion and spending time with God, that gives me peace. And three, just remembering, I know it's so cliche. It's like everyone is like, know your why. But no, my why is I want to be present for my kids. So I have 3 kids. I have a 17-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. For my oldest daughter, I was not able to like be present for her like I wanted to be, because I was always working and building myself. Wasn't able to pick her up from school. Just like the small things. And it's like, okay, this time around with my kids, I don't want to have to send my kids to daycare or whatever. Like I have a nanny, right? And I have money to be able to afford that, right? And also it's like, I want to be able to do, like if my son wakes up and says, Mom, I want to go to the arcade today, I don't have to put in PTO to take him to, an arcade. It's like, so therapy, God, and like my why is I want to be present for my family. I want to have peace of mind every day. I don't want to be frazzled, stressing myself about money. So I keep those 3 things in mind every day and just kind of stay focused on like what I want my life to look like.
Yeah.
Got it. One thing I wanted to ask you, and it's kind of funny to say because you've said it yourself a few times throughout this talk, like you want to be a lazy CEO and all these type of things, right? There's no way you're bringing in $1 million in income by being a lazy person, right? I know a lot of lazy people who ain't bringing in $1 million. So I know you mean it like that you're trying to delegate all that. But what are some of the productive habits that you incorporate in your life to help you be as successful as you are?
One thing, communication, right? Okay. Communication. So like in my business, communication is key. And I tell people who ask me all the time, like, how do I do this? If you don't have strong communication skills, like it's not going to work. So my thing is like making sure I'm responding to things in a timely manner.
Okay.
That keeps us first in mind when it comes to taking on referrals, right? So communicating with case management, communicating with my contracted partners, and communicating with my team. That's one thing. 2 is like task lists, right? Like tasks for myself, tasks for my team, tasks for everybody. Everybody gets a task, right? And also like tracking the task is very much key. So communication and task and staying on top of task is like 2 things that are very important.
And do you find that those help you maintain that level of quality that helps with the referrals just keep coming to
Absolutely,
the door?
because like expectations, right? So my expectation is if you reach out to us with a request or anything, I say 6 hours.
Okay.
8 hours max. Once we get to like the 24-hour mark, that's like you're taking too long to respond. So like when I'm talking to my team, it's like if somebody reach out to us, 8 to 16 hours, respond with a yay or nay, right? Like we can't do everything, but just us responding and saying, hey, thank you for reaching out. Unfortunately, we're unable to accommodate at this time. If something opens up, we'll get back to you. That leaves hope. And that also kind of like leaves the impression that, okay, they're on top of their game. So if we need something else, maybe it didn't work this time, but we'll reach out to them again. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wondering, we always like to share kind of what skills and what habits and what little things do you do in your daily life that help you to be as successful as you are. It's always interesting to hear different people's perspectives from their different businesses and different walks of life.
I mean, I can't stress this enough, and I just know that I've said it like maybe 10 times, but it's like, honestly, like the relationship with God is priority.
Okay.
Like if I don't have time to like slow down and let him lead me to like what's next, it's like I'm all over the place. Like any morning that I don't slow down and get to God and pray, but also listen for like what he needs to tell me, if I don't do that, my day is off, my week is off. So anybody out there that's looking to, like, there's no successful business without God, not in my eyes, right? Some people who aren't believers, they may have successful businesses, but I guarantee you the peace is not there. So, like, getting to God is the first key, like letting him lead you, and also being purposeful, right? Like, everybody just wants to start a business. Transportation might not be for you. Like, running a coffee shop, that might not be for you. It's like, what are you purposed to do? Like, what has God told you to do? Like, staying in your lane, that's the thing, right? But it's like, really, like, you can't do what I do just because you think it's a way to make money.
Right.
Like, you need to do what you're purpose to do. Does that make sense? So out of everything, keeping God first, that's the key. That's the thing you need to do, because he'll lead you and give you ways to, you know, be more productive or be more assertive, or, you know, work on your communication skills. God gives me the tools I need to be able to CEO my business and my family.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think purpose is different than passion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you kind of distinguish those?
I'm
in
passionate
business?
about fashion.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I was always passionate about that, but clearly that wasn't my purpose, or else God wouldn't have led me in a different direction, right? Passion isn't going to always get you to, like, that end goal. Like, we're passionate about a lot of things. And if I would have just led with passion, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys today. I wouldn't have the business that I have today. My life wouldn't have changed the way it changed, because it's just not about passion, right? And it's like, once I start stepping into my purpose, I found new passion. Like, I'm actually passionate about managing things, managing, period, right? Because if I could manage this, I could manage anything. I could manage real estate. I could manage whatever, right? So it's like, be passionate, right? But you don't lead with passion.
Lead
like,
with
it's like,
purpose.
lead with purpose, and then the new passion will come.
Gotcha.
Got it. That's great. That's a fantastic answer, and I think a great way to sum up the conversation.
Yeah. One question I like to ask our guests is, what does success mean to you?
Success to me is the freedom of my time, right? Me being able to wake up and not be obligated to show up somewhere. Like, that's success to me. For me to be able to wake up and just spend time with my kids, but I already have, 7 vans on the road bringing me in money. Success is not trading time for money. Like, I don't want to trade my time for money. That's success for me.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
If you want to learn more about Keaira, you can follow me on socials. Everywhere is Keaira Monique. If you want to know more about Just Shuttle, you can head over to our website, justshuttleservice.com.
Sounds great. We'll make sure to include links in the description of the videos. And Keaira, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
Honestly, super inspirational. Loved it. Thanks so much for your time. We know you've got a lot going on, a lot on your hands, so we really appreciate you taking time out to sit with us and help us and our audience hopefully as well today. So thank you very much.
No problem.